All right, I'm not a gaming news channel or anything, but there was something I wanted to talk about. So, from Retro Studios, that is the studio that created the Metroid Prime series, creating the first game in 2002. From Retro Studios, two of the people who were there, Marco Thrush and the now late Andy O'Neill, they went on to found Bluepoint Games, founding it in 2006 and releasing that same year their first game, Blast Factor, which wasn't a well received game, but it was Keeley, original single player game, and it was for solely PS3. It was a PlayStation exclusive. They would continue on from there partnering with PlayStation, but not with, unlike their first game, which was an original, they would continue on remastering the series from beforehand. Now, this is all just thrown together stuff because I just really wanted to talk about this, get my thoughts out there. So they released the remaster of the God of War collection in 2009, and in 2011 releasing the Ico collection, Ico and Shadow Colossus, and the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, the first three Metal Gear games remastered. They then went on to 2012, 2013 was just, and 2014 was all just doing support work. They ported for Sony, they ported PlayStation All Stars to Vita, and they ported the game Flowers, which is a Journey-esque game, to Vita and PS4. 2014, they ported Titanfall to Xbox 360. They would then go on to continue working with Sony specifically, even though they did a Titanfall port. They would then go on to remaster the Uncharted collection, the three Nathan Drake Uncharted games, and Gravity Rush, which is like, out of the remasters they've done, I'd say it's probably the least known IP out of them, but it still was well received. And a key factor in all of these games is not only were they for Sony, but they were all remastered single player story based focused games. All of these games. In the first games they were working on, that they worked on before with Retro Studios, and that they worked on as their first original game, were all single player experiences. They then went on in 2018 and 2020. They went on to work on the remakes of Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls, respectively. Demon Souls being a launch title of the PS5, being a huge, well received game. And again, these are all single player experiences. So Sony decides, we want this studio. We want, they've been working with us. We want this studio. So they purchased the studio and it made it part of PlayStation Studios. And from then on in 2021, it was essentially just, we know they're working on a game. We don't know what it is. We know that they're working on a game. They did some additional work. That's all it's written down as, additional work for God of War Ragnarok. Not sure what specifically that is. But then, after a while, after years and years of waiting, in 2025, we get the news that, Sony's canceling their live service games. Yeah, Sony's canceling their live service games, and that that the game that Bluepoint was working on, the studio that is known for single player experiences and remastering and remaking games really, really well, that's what they were put up to in those years. And like they had initially promised that the Sony had promised that Bluepoint was staying. It was here to stay. But here today, with 80 people who are working at the studio, 80, like around 80, uh, Sony announced today, last night, there somewhere, they announced the closure of the studio. So they announced last year that Bluepoint was going to be staying going, and before Bluepoint can release anything else, a year following their last game getting canceled, a game that Sony specifically asked them to make, they closed down the studio. They did a lot of work specifically for Sony, only having two other products in the history of Bluepoint that were made for other companies, as the Metal Gear Solid Collection also being released for Xbox 360 and doing a port of Titanfall for EA, another studio infamous for doing this to two studios, buying them and then just relegating them to the work on their other properties rather than what that studio would be beneficial at, and then shutting them down. This is just a wild series of events to me. Is you have going from like a meager launch of a studio into okay, you can remaster, you can make these games, you are capable at doing your job as a studio, as a game studio, and then remaking, building up these properties, these well-known and loved properties, remaking them for the modern era, and then just going, yeah, we have live service games we want to make work, so we're going to put you to them. Just kind of like, I have some speculations that I just want to go over. Sony saw that Bluepoint could make remasters and remakes appealing to customers. They then decided, hey, why don't we get this company that is capable of bringing appeal to our games? And then that's what they did. They bought them and put them to work trying to fix their live service games, because people, even though they could sell live service games, they couldn't really make people appeal to that idea. So it's like, that's why I think that the statement, whoever made it, I'm not sure, made the statement that Bluepoint would be staying as a company. I'm sure they were being honest, because they are a capable studio, therefore they are a good asset to have as a company. You would not let go of this asset unless you basically had to, unless somebody higher up in the studio decided, this place has to go, in the overall company. Somebody who has influence in the company, either an executive or a sponsoring figure, because somebody must have looked at, well, we had these live services games, they were just a dump of money, we need to make money back somehow, so we're going to make it by just flushing spending costs. With how do we stop spending costs? well, we got this full studio, people. Yeah, let's just stop. It's one expense gone. One big expense gone. Even though it was Sony's own fault for the direction to be going down this hill of live service games, even though they took that route, Bluepoint, a company that was founded by people who started making single player games, made a single player game that had local multiplayer afterwards, but was not real received, into like these remasters and remakes of these games, and then to just put them to the coal mine, just send them down, have them try and fix our problem that we made, only to then just get scrapped when it was like, hey, somebody's got to take the bullet, and it's not going to be the people who made the decision in the first place. So I have not. I've been too focused on talking about it. I did not even like. I've really this emotion of my model is more appropriate to what I think of all this. Uh, it's I feel bad for the 80+ people who are now out of a job because of decisions far beyond their control or the control of the people they work closely with. And you might be thinking it's like, oh well, how else is the company supposed to be making back its money? How else is a company that had a really solid development studio that was really accomplished at single player experiences? I just have no idea. I have no. I'm. There couldn't be a solution. This stupid video. Wow. I wanted to say something, so I said something. But yeah.